G'day and welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me. In this episode, I wanted to have a look at both Bitcoin and Megaport. I've been doing more and more research on Bitcoin recently, and I really like its prospects as an insurance policy for an investing portfolio. And the company I wanted to talk about in this video, Megaport, has recently seen a drop off in its share price, which may open up a buying opportunity for investors. Now, just before I get started on these two topics, make sure you hit the like button on the video. And if you're enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in how I find new stocks and go about analyzing stocks, I've put a class together on Skillshare. If you want to check that out, there's a link in the description. Now, as always, this video is for entertainment purposes only and is not financial advice. Before making any financial investment decisions, go and see a licensed financial advisor. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. So there's been a lot of talk in the investment community recently about how the market is generally overvalued and how we might be close to another market crash. It's also very clear at this point that growth stocks are heavily outperforming value stocks or dividend stocks. I've been watching some videos from another YouTube channel called Game of Trades. This is a technical analysis channel which is more geared towards your day trader stock market investors. However, I think the videos are really good and they definitely present some value and there's things that can be learned. Watching some of their most recent analysis videos, they're flagging major concern for the stock market. When comparing the current market movement to historical trends, it looks like we may be on the verge of a market crash. Now, a market crash is not all bad. As you know, at the bottom of a crash, we can get stocks at some really good prices. So for me, that's not what I'm worried about, especially being a younger investor. Now, in addition to a potential market downturn, the other thing to consider is the value of the dollar. At the moment, we've seen reserve banks around the world drop interest rates to record lows. In addition to this, we're also seeing record amounts of money being printed. With this money printing and very low interest rates, the value of the dollar over time is not looking particularly good. We've seen a lot of experienced investors like Ray Dalio talking about how important it is to invest in gold, considering the position of the dollar at the moment. This is what has spurred me to look into alternative assets such as gold and Bitcoin. I made a video on gold a little while back. You can check that out as well. I'll put a link up on screen. Now, I've always been a bit wary of Bitcoin, and I think this is probably because I didn't know enough about it. I've been doing more research into Bitcoin and have found out that it is a finite resource, similar to gold, and perhaps even more finite. The fact that it has an absolute cap on the number of coins that can ever be created. Gold, on the other hand, will continuously be discovered as mining developments and techniques get better and better. The other major benefit of Bitcoin over gold is the low transaction costs, there's no storage fees, and it's much easier to buy and sell. We've also seen some NASDAQ listed companies purchase Bitcoin as a reserve asset. This is not something we've seen before, and it proves that companies are seriously considering Bitcoin as a stable long-term asset. Earlier this year, we also saw a Bitcoin halving. This is where the payout from mining Bitcoin has actually reduced by half, and it happens around every 4 years. Last time we saw this happen, the value of Bitcoin went through the roof. Every time this cryptocurrency goes through a halving, it becomes harder and harder to acquire. This in turn drives up its value. Now, I'm not in a position to make an investment in Bitcoin just yet. I still feel like I've got a lot more learning and research to do before I'm comfortable buying some of the cryptocurrency. However, at the moment, because I am searching for an alternative to stocks to essentially hedge my portfolio out of gold and silver and Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin makes the most sense for me. The current value of Bitcoin is around the 20,000 Australian dollar mark. However, this is also predicted to continue increasing all the way up to potentially $100,000 in the next 4, 5, 6 years. If this proves true, this would be a great asset to hold on to. My current thinking is that it would be wise to hold a small portion of my portfolio in assets like Bitcoin or gold. I'm really keen to hear your thoughts on Bitcoin. Maybe you've got some investing experience with the cryptocurrency. If you do, make sure to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And even if you don't, I'd like to know your point of view on Bitcoin and whether or not I should seriously consider it as an investment. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about Megaport. They're listed on the ASX as MP1. Overall, this company has a lot of really positive indicators on their income statement and balance sheet. They've been enjoying some significant growth and they've got very low levels of debt. These stats about the company are very appealing, but they're not currently profitable and their net income has been a bit all over the place. In other words, there's no clear trend towards profitability for the company. So let's take a look at what Megaport actually does, what their future looks like, and we'll have a look at a case study about some real business cases where customers have used their services. So Megaport describes themselves as a leading provider of elastic interconnector services. They allow customers to connect their own network to other services available on the Megaport network. Now, the Megaport network essentially allows businesses to connect to the global cloud computing providers. These big cloud service providers are companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon Web Services. We'll get into more details about that in just a minute. Let's have a look at their future direction. Despite their net income being up and down over the past few years, in their latest annual report, they are predicting at least break even in financial year 2021. This would be a major milestone for the company and it would confirm that their business model can become profitable. Let's take a quick look at an interview with the CEO of Megaport and see what he says about the company's future.
You know, in terms of the overall results, you're right, 66% up in revenue. We had 94% growth in our North America business during the year. And you know, that was 54% in our APAC region and 36% growth in our European region. So all business units are contributing. One common denominator is that demand is increasing for services, and the speed in which we're enable that for customers is kind of a big driver. Overall, we had an EBITDA loss in a financial year just under 20 million, 19.9 million. An improvement substantially on last year, and also on our gross margin as continues to improve as we drive more revenue and the business scales much quicker. And we're looking to exit this financial year FY21 in June 21 on an EBITDA break-even basis. So as I've mentioned on our earnings call.
As you can see from that interview, there's a lot of focus on the increase in revenue and customer base, but he also does talk about profitability and the fact that they are looking to achieve this in 2021. Reaching profitability in 2021 will be a great step for the company, but whether or not this actually happens, we'll have to wait and see. It's obviously going to be important to check out their quarterly financials in the lead up to 2020. Given their great growth numbers across the board, if the company can hit profitability in 2021, they're certainly a company I'll be looking at very closely for investment. So I'm sure there's some of you watching that really still don't quite know what sort of services Megaport actually provide. I was in the same position when I started looking at this company, but fortunately they've got some really good information on their website. On their website, their case study section provides some excellent resources. There's a number of companies listed on there that Megaport has offered their services to. They describe the challenge the customer had and how Megaport provided a service to meet those customers' needs. Essentially, they allow companies cheap, flexible, and reliable connection to the major cloud service providers. In a lot of cases, the publicly available internet services providers cannot offer the bandwidth that some of these companies need to access and really utilize these cloud services. This is where Megaport steps in. They own and operate data centers across the world. These data centers then have direct links to some of the big cloud services providers, like we talked about before, Microsoft, Amazon, etc. So the example I want to talk about, which made the most sense to me when I was doing my research, is Queensland Airports. Now, Queensland Airports, as the name would suggest, own and operate airports in Queensland, Australia. As you probably know, when you're traveling at an airport, a lot of airports have an option for free airport Wi-Fi. Well, for Queensland Airports, they wanted to make their Wi-Fi service more enjoyable for their customer base. To do this, Queensland Airports wanted to provide services to customers such as Netflix, which they could watch while they were waiting for their airplane to arrive. The benefit for Queensland Airports offering a service like this is obviously to collect data from the people who are coming and using their service within the airport. If you've used airport Wi-Fi before, you probably know that it is usually pretty terrible. Now, Queensland Airports wants to not just make the internet fast, but they also want to offer premium subscription services like Netflix for free to customers. Now, if you've got everyone at the airport logged onto the airport Wi-Fi using Netflix, obviously this is going to use a huge amount of internet bandwidth. So initially, Queensland Airport's got an upgraded internet connection priced by the local internet services providers. Not only did this come back as an extremely expensive proposition, it would also take a number of weeks or months to implement. This is where Megaport stepped in, making a proposal to have a direct port from Queensland Airport to one of Megaport's own data servers. With just a single connection from Megaport's data centre to Queensland Airport's facility, Queensland Airport now has super fast access to a whole host of cloud services. Megaport's data centres, as I said before, are located all over the globe and they have super fast links to the big providers. The solution from Megaport was up to 90% cheaper than the other options Queensland Airport had, so for them it was a no-brainer. So by owning and operating dedicated data centres, Megaport was able to provide a private solution which was the best value for money for Queensland airports. There's a number of other case studies on the website, and if you're interested in Megaport, I'd recommend you go and check those out because they do provide a lot of good information and you can really understand how the company operates. So from my research, I really think Megaport is a great company and I'm excited to see what the future brings for them. What do you think about Megaport? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Well, that's all from me for this week. I hope you enjoyed watching. Again, if you've got any questions, let me know in the comments section. I'd be happy to have a chat with you down there. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to give the video a like, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.